Okay, so I wanted to do a quick reminder about chain rule also, because chain rule seems to be the one that causes difficulty more than like product rule or quotient rule does. So chain rule is when you have some function inside of another function. So if you have like an f of g of x. So when you're doing a chain rule, what you've got to do is you've got to identify your outside function and you need to identify your inside function. So your first step with your chain rule is you take the derivative of the outside function. Then we're just going to leave the inside function alone. But then you multiply by the derivative of the inside. The kicker with the chain rule is sometimes you have to use more than once. So if your g prime is something like x or 2 or 1/4, whatever, if it's just something simple, straightforward like that, you only have to use once. If your g prime is something like x squared or sine of x, if it's another function, you're going to have to do the chain rule again. So you've got to make sure you use the chain rule as many times as you need to. So first example with chain rule here. Let's say we have the function e to the 3x squared plus 7. So we need to identify our outside function and our inside function. So your typical function looks like e to the x. So your e is your outside function, and then this is the thing that is plugged in on the inside. So as we go to take the derivative of e is just e. We keep what's on the inside, and now we multiply by the derivative of what's on the inside. So the derivative of 3x squared is 6x, and the derivative of 7 is 0. Generally, it will be rewritten like this, just to put that 6x out front and then to keep the e at the end. So let's do 2 more examples of this. So let's say we had something like the square root of 7x. So same concept, we want to identify our outside function and our inside function. So our outside function is the square root. Our inside function is the 7x. I would probably rewrite it as 7x to the 1/2. And so then that means your outside is the 1/2 power. So as you go to take the derivative of this, we do the power rule, keep the inside, then you have to multiply by the derivative of the inside, which is 7. So again, they're not going to write it like that. That 7 is going to go on top, and then 2 square root of 7x is going to go on bottom. So once we get through ones like that, these are not as typical, but it is possible that you would see something like e to the sine of x squared. So when we're looking at this one, your most outside function is e. But then on your inside, you have sine, and you also have x squared. So as we start doing this derivative, the derivative of e is e. We keep the inside. Now we go to our first inside function. So we're just focusing in on this now. So when we're focused in on that, it's like sine becomes our outside function, and then x squared is our inside function. So the derivative of sine is cosine. We keep the inside, and then now the derivative of x squared is 2x. And generally, again, they are going to rewrite that to where it looks a little prettier like this. Not that any of that looks pretty. Chain rule, be careful though. They do like to test you on the AP exam by just knowing that if you take the derivative with respect to x of f of g of x, it will be derivative of the outside, keep the inside, multiply by the derivative of the inside. You need to make sure that you're familiar with what that rule looks like, because they do have questions where you would have to use that sum. If you guys have any questions, just reach out, let me know. Again, we'll meet on Google Classroom or Google Hangouts or Zoom later if you need additional help.